Welcome to another wasted hour of you and I, Unfiltered and Inspired, where I spend a good amount of time with a beautiful creative mind. We hope you'll have an awesome time with us. And you know, the way to support us is obviously to follow, subscribe, leave some information. If you're interested in being part of this podcast, please go ahead and leave us a message and we'll get right back to you. But for now, let's really enjoy this time with our new artist in this new episode. I'm gonna start a goof off. I'm always nervous. Look at this big eye.
Please.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So this is episode number 1. I'm so happy. We're going to be exploring all the artists in the IE that I can get my hands on over the course of this next year. And what I want out of this series is for you to know the people behind the art in a very unfiltered way, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because a lot of stuff that we see out of artists is the beautiful arts that they're making, and they're on Instagram, everything looks good, and they're out there, but that's not what it is for real.
Let's see how the sausage is
And
made.
Duane has some stories. But anyway, so I want to introduce you to Duane Kellum, my good friend out of San Bernardino. So I'm going to let you maybe introduce a little bit the creative grounds.
Okay.
And then I'll just ask you a few questions about life.
Okay. So Duane Kellum, I'm the co-owner of Creative Grounds here in downtown San Bernardino. We're a community art studio. I also create art myself under the name of Duane and Only and do screen printing under Schoolboys. We've been in this location for 4 years. So we just celebrated our 4-year anniversary. As far as me, I've been creating, I would say all my life, but like I started like doing shirts 21 years ago.
How about the
2003.
sculptures? Because you're doing these really cool sculptures.
Sculptures? I was doing sculptures. I was, creating shit. Can I say shit on this podcast? Okay, I don't know.
I said it's going to be wrong.
Okay,
right? So
I've been creating shit all my life. I mean,
Yeah.
I think about that. I made a robot like out of a lighter fluid can and wood and stuff. And I mean, that's something I was like constantly in my, it just freaked my parents out because they didn't think, I didn't like, it wasn't that I didn't like school. It just started too damn early for me. And so I'd rather stay in bed and sleep. And, I love learning, but I just wasn't that school thing and, and go into it, being.
Which is funny. And this is about artists surviving. Because you weren't that school thing, but you were a teacher. Like you've been a teacher.
I was a move.
I know. You hated that and you went into it as a career.
I love learning. I love the interchange of knowledge.
Okay.
So.
And you were teaching in the arts? Or?
No, actually. That's a, something people don't. I started out teaching first grade, bilingual. I did that for 3 years. Then I went to 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Okay.
And I did a lot of like English transition, non-English speaking students. Then I did all that for about 11 years. And I went to high school.
So language.
Yeah, language was my thing. Then I taught ELD, or some of the older people know it as ESL.
Okay.
I did that. And then my last, 10 years of my career, I taught ethnic studies.
Oh, wow.
And then a college prep program called AVIT.
Great.
And so I was creating.
But all the while doing your art stuff.
And for the past, 5-6 years, I was just really going wild with the art and, working full-time, teaching full-time and doing creative art full-time.
So can I ask you why you didn't do just the arts? Why teaching? Why not? Since it was really in you, so ingrained since small, why not going full-blown art career?
I would say, first of all, when I was probably in college. I was at Valley down the street,
Uh-huh.
and I came up with the whole concept of schoolboys, and I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
screen print, but I couldn't find any classes, any place to learn how to screen print.
Wow, resources was the problem.
Yeah, I mean, even now, you don't find many places that you can learn that skill. So that's something I want to branch out into in the future. But not until I was teaching, making a salary, did I, was I able to buy like my first screen printing setup and teach myself and
So that was
learn the
survival. You
basics.
had to figure it out and make the resources where they were not existing for yourself.
Yeah. But I'm that type of person who just constantly I get an idea. I will say I'm blessed to the point that everything I've wanted, I've achieved. It didn't happen at that
You heard
time. It didn't happen at that time,
Okay.
but it was maybe I'm not adverse to long-term gratification. So I can
Okay.
work today, and things will pay off down the road. I don't need it right now.
If you couldn't do art tomorrow, what would happen to you?
Now, are you talking about visual art or just art
Oh,
across the board?
okay.
Like
So you have
music?
other hats?
So yeah, I play a little percussion. I play djembe
Okay.
and conga, and so I could,
So if you
and I
couldn't
have a
do the visual stuff, you would
probably more into music. Yeah,
at least explore the music stuff.
Yeah, and write.
You write
I
too.
tried to write at one time. I thought I was going to be a poet, and I was doing like haiku and stuff, and some short stories.
And I think you're going to see this across all the videos. Artists just can't stop creating and do a million things. Like if you think about, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny because we have a little bit of the same story because I'm teaching at the university level. I teach psychology, right? And I've done this for years. And I would have loved to be an artist from the get-go, but it was more of a family thing where that was like, we're not
And it pays the bills.
We're not going to
I mean,
career. It pays the bills.
It pays the bills. I mean, but saying that, I think that if I would have come across screen printing when I was younger, I probably
would have
not
been the
would have
ramp.
gone to college or anything. Because I was that kid, the hands-on, who I was building bikes, I was fixing the vacuum, I was installing sprinklers,
Okay.
building fences on my brakes. So
On your But so you're calling this space, you labeled it a community art center. So in a sense, you're talking to your little self because you're like, hey, you didn't have that resources, but I'm making that resource right now for the
Yes.
kids that are in this community. So that's awesome.
Kids, adults, everybody. We're trying to reach out and do things. We're trying to find, funding sources. So it's either no cost or low cost. 4 years into it, we really do have our businessmen hats on. Like, okay, we've got to make this.
We got to figure that one
Yeah,
out.
like, we got to pay the bills. We would love to get paid and livelihood. I mean, that's the goal for everyone, I think. And there's different ways of doing it. I think it's kind of cliche when people think if you're an artist and you're just like sitting in a room and you're painting and you've got a funder giving you money or whatever.
A benefactor.
Exactly.
A sponsor.
No, I mean, for me, I will say it's probably the most lucrative part of what I do as a creative. And it's
It's your bread and butter.
It's creative, and that gives me the opportunity to just create for creation's sake as well.
So that's a big piece of, you'll see it through, that will be a common thread. I think artists have to learn to be business people. And that is, not everybody is business oriented at all.
No.
But you realize there's so much more to you just be creating, and it's got to get out of your studio somehow.
Yeah.
It's, So this whole thing about the starving artist and all that stuff, yes, but I think that if you're open to listening and try to learn how to run a little business, you get places. Plus, people are really creative in all these different ways. So you do paint, you have all your, look at this, sculpture and stuff. It's 3D, it's flat. You do all sorts of stuff. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But at the same time, you have these different branches. You have the screen printing, you have the community action, and you do a lot of stuff here. By the way, they have a lot of events here at Creative Grounds.
Try to, yeah. I mean, trying to utilize the space as best as we can.
So how do you utilize the space here?
I think I do a lot of programming. So as far as workshops,
workshops,
community outreach things, working with community groups, hosting events. We're doing rentals at times, renting the studio to either other artists or performers. I have started prior to a change in life situation, trying to do more, creating more art here. I do have a home studio, so I kind of am able to, walk out at 10 o'clock at night and go in the garage and create. And I like that because I'm very spontaneous, and I'll get an idea and I want to run with it,
Which is nice. It's nice to have a personal studio.
And I'm learning, and it can be more concentrated too. You don't have. I'm realizing you don't need to have as much space. I mean, when you get into storage,
depends because we're working on all kinds of cultures today, so it's gonna take space. But
you do need space. I know.
But I've seen people create crazy stuff and not necessarily have this beautiful loft that you see in the New York kind of vibe as an artist. Not necessarily. People create anywhere. When it's in you and you need to get it out, you just
it gets out regardless. And I started painting during the pandemic kind of because of that, because when I screen print, I do runs, and people really weren't out at the time, so it's like, why am I going to be doing screen prints and doing a run of 15, 20 pieces? I can focus on one. And my initial objective for painting during a pandemic was to work on my steadiness, my hands, because I couldn't straight. So I'm doing a lot more. So I do a lot more painting. So I'm
because you're literally.
It's got to
training yourself to do better with your steadiness?
Control? I would say all the basics, because I was taking a lot of those fundamentals and then applying them to screen printing. Okay. So before, you can just take
Give me an example, because, some people don't really know what we're talking about.
So, for example, screen printing can be really flat, 2D. Okay. We've got even this, what would you call it? The composition. Okay. So you have to understand composition, whether it's screen printing, whether it's a shirt too. That's involves a lot of graphic design, composition. This one right there, Technicolor, playing with gradients. So it's easier to kind of figure it out on paper with, ink or paint, and then using technology, kind of flipping it for screen printing.
So when we say screen printing, it doesn't necessarily mean on T-shirts. It means on paper, it can mean on...
This one right here, the kind of squiggles, those are screen prints on the wood. The brown one there, that's a screen print. And then I just went over it with paint, the outline. The top one there, that's a screen print. And then the purple one's a screen print as well. So I screen print on anything I can get your hands on. Paper.
Did you ever screen print on a shoe?
No. But I did learn just a couple of weeks ago how to screen print on ceramics.
Oh, that's going to be sick.
So, there are two different techniques where, you can use your screen and ink it up and flip it over and roll it.
Oh,
that's one way.
But you couldn't do that on a plate, though. It has to be like a surface that you can roll on.
So with the plate, what we did was we screen printed on newsprint, and then you let it dry. Then you take that newsprint and you flip it and you wet it, and you use a little pottery squeegee, and you just rub it, and it transfers like an old school. What do you call it? Cracker Jack tattoos.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
the
yeah.
ones you look. I mean, so you can
Yeah.
get screen prints on plates and surfaces with consistencies.
Hopefully, we'll catch some videos of you in work. We haven't prepared that today, but so people can really see what it looks like. But it's awesome. Really cool stuff. Okay. Where do you see yourself in like 15 years?
In 15 years, be kicking it on a beat someplace.
Oh yeah, all right. Hopefully,
15 years, I will be
like with your art and with yourself.
my art.
You know.
I'll be creating.
Yeah.
I may be doing something I haven't even thought of today. You know,
Right.
welding or I don't know. So, as far as the career, I want by 15 years, very more established. I won't say I'm not established now, but I want my work to be world renowned.
You're pretty established. So okay, so you mean world renowned when you say established? You mean
Is my
being able
work
to do
is
shows
known?
around the world?
Oh, I
and
would. Yeah,
stuff
that's
like
my
that?
my
Okay.
5-year goal. I want to do
Okay.
international shows. I want to go places and create art with other artists, study
Yeah.
art, and just work with people and
Like residencies and things, or
residencies,
just like
and even just
doing
drop
art?
in. So I've
Stop
done a
by
little of
somebody's
that, like
place.
in Oaxaca, Mexico. I've like
Mm.
done like workshops with like some established artists and learned some things.
Excellent.
And I want to go back to Berlin and just be an artist for like a couple of months
the
and be on the
dream!
streets. And I mean that really blew me away.
The art in Berlin.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I joke and I said I was a street artist for like 5 days because you realize
Yeah.
the police aren't sweating anybody for doing murals or anything. So
Really?
I had like got
Did
my
you hear that?
Sharpie and I started doing my little
Broad daylight.
broad daylight.
Wow.
Nobody's worried about you. I mean, I literally walked across and there were crews with like barbecue grills and coolers and just doing walls.
That was like
Out-
art freedom,
It is.
freedom land.
It is. It really is.
So then in that bucket list of yours, there's Berlin, there's
Berlin.
around the world shows and collaborations with other artists.
Plus,
Definitely.
much
Plus,
more.
plus.
Yeah.
Do you dream of having a gallery, like where your art is permanently there, or is that just like whatever?
No.
Okay.
I mean, but who knows? I mean, I've done more curating in the past year than I've
Ever done?
I didn't look at myself as a curator, but you know, as an artist, when someone
Yeah.
says, "Can you do this?" and you go, "Yeah,"
Yeah.
then you go, "Let me figure it out."
I know. That
You
happens so
get
many
the job,
times.
and then you
Yes.
figure out how to. Because
Yes, I've had weird requests, and I'm like, sure.
yeah, I've
Just trying to figure it out
participated.
here.
I've been worked with other artists on murals, and it got
Yes.
out, and then people are hitting me. Oh, you're a muralist? I'm like,
Yeah, sure.
nah, I guess I do.
You have to call yourself. You know what? I realized this. I've done a mural. I've done murals. I've done like theater backgrounds and stuff like that in the past, but never thought myself as a muralist. And then I did one with the East Side Art House on that Mason Lodge out there, and it was humongous. And it was the first time that I was really out there, and there, you know, Willis and Juan were kind of coaching me on a lot of that stuff. And after that, it was like, I guess I'm a muralist. Because one, I loved it. Two, I've learned a whole lot. And then I knew I was able to do it myself at that scale after that. And I did. And it was like, yes. But if you don't call it, then you're going to stay like, I don't know if I can do it.
I mean,
And, you know,
I went through that journey probably about 10 years ago when I was, you know, I would just call myself a screen printer. You know, it's a craft. And then it's like, no, you're an artist. I'm an artist. Okay.
It's funny. You think we accept that, like,
Oh,
no, it takes something to be like, you know what? I'm an artist.
yeah.
And be cool, like be at peace with that stuff.
And I will say for me, and speaking to a lot of other artists, but I think there's a big disease of imposter syndrome
Yes,
where you're like,
100%.
Because there's so many great artists around, and
Yeah.
when I don't know about you, but I would tend to compare myself, and so I see someone do a mural. I love street art. I
Yeah.
love murals. I love people, the writers.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my forte. I love it. I respect it. I think it kind of comes out in me a different way through my abstracts. They kind of almost look like bubble letters sometimes, but I'm not gonna step on toes either. I'm not gonna go out there and say, I'm a writer. I can do this, and it's like
So for you, that would be stepping on toes to claim that about you?
because at least for me, old school graffiti, it's almost like you've got to earn it. You've got to put in your time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Do you feel like you put in your time?
in some
At this
things,
point in your life?
yes. Yeah. In a lot of things, yes. I mean, there are things where I can go old man and be like, "You're."
I've been in there
I've
a
been
long
there.
time.
So- back in the trenches, yeah.
I know.
Another thing, and I guess for me, that's also a blessing in it because there's so much more to learn.
And that's the beautiful thing
Yeah,
about being a
because
creative.
I'm.
And that's why you see yourself in 15 years. Some people would have been like, I'd be sleeping.
No,
I'll be
no,
tired.
no,
But
no,
you're like,
no. No.
Like I'll always be learning something. I'll always be creating something. Will always come out of my hands.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I would like to have a children's book or two under my belt. I'm a big children's book fan. When I was teaching, all through my career, whether it's elementary, high school, or university, I was using children's books and I love that they're a way to, transfer knowledge in a
fun
way that is very digestible. I mean, if you look at
You
the
heard
brown
teacher?
bear up there, that's taken from a children's book, Brown Bear, and I kind of flipped it for an environmental theme.
Oh.
So a lot of people are familiar with brown bear, so when they see that, it's like, oh,
It's the whole thing that comes back
yeah.
from.
So I love
the
playing
deep.
like cultural references, like pop culture and.
Okay, I like that. You're made out of a lot of things.
Yeah.
You're a patchwork of all of these cultures and all these
Places I've been,
Places.
people I know, experiences I've had.
But you know what? You look happy in this thing. It's nice to see.
Yeah, I am. This is my world. This is my jam.
Like,
You know that I'm a recently exited education.
yeah.
And I was happy because I had this. It wasn't like I hated what I was doing. It was just that I love this even more. And I was able to exit it.
Yeah. I know. It's not black or white. Like, it's not like you just came out.
Yeah, and
it's a whole identity. You've
and
been a teacher for so long.
stayed and and wrote it out and had more money at the end. But it's like
You took a leap.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
all right.
And kind of like the philosophy. There's enough for everybody. And you don't get anywhere unless you do take that chance.
Right.
I mean, you play it safe.
Still
And I
do
kind of look like I played it safe for like 31 years. Now let me.
Now it's time to create.
Oh yeah.
You heard that?
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Like, Duane has a lot of passion, and I just absolutely enjoy that. Excellent. I mean, we said a lot. There's so much more. So this is what I'm going to say. Come and visit Duane, right? Look at the Creative Grounds Instagram pages and their websites and all that stuff. Check in. They really have cool events. Always community, always music and food. And plus, they're building a whole stage back behind the building and all that stuff. So it's going to be a really cool space. Maybe expanding to other.
Well, we've used this space.
Yeah.
There's
cool
we
murals
spill
back
out
there.
into it, and so once it's redone, I mean, it's going to be even more.
Even better, yeah. And we have shows. There's this show that Duane has put together with his team. It's called The Monolith. It's happening every year. So, there's a lot of stuff to come and kind of meet the guy and see him in his space and his collaborators.
Yeah.
And just do stuff. That's the good thing about what Duane is doing is like he likes to include people in doing stuff. When he's talking about screen printing, he actually has people like
Interactive
doing
screen
it,
printing.
interactive,
Yeah.
and doing it with him. So it's awesome. That's what I live for, art in action. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to have us in your space.
Well, thank you for coming out.
And opening up about the, sticky stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I thought you were going to get deep.
It's episode number 1, so it was nice.
Oh, come on.
I'm just kidding. Well, thank you. All right, so you're going to see us a little bit more because we're working on some really cool sculpture stuff that's going to come up in the next 3 years, maybe.
Yeah, and some collabs. So sure, we're going to do some screen print collab stuff.
Yes.
And
T-shirts are coming, that's for sure.
T-shirts, totes, or even print. I mean, the sky's the limit.
Because now you know how to print on other things.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
All right, this is it for episode number 1. And, well, you know what? We don't have a title yet, so we're going to choose that and figure it out. We do have some ideas, but yeah, it was awesome. And I'll see you at the next episode with the next beautiful artist in the IE.